Welcome back to this week's Gear Change episode of the Drivetime podcast. I'm joined again by Olly Harrison at Green IP. We had a great conversation in the first episode, and this time we're going to be looking at some myth busting around how you can really make the most of your telephone systems and how agentic AI is starting to shape that industry. Olly Harrison, CEO of Green IP, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
So listen, we talked a lot in the main episode. I learned a lot about how AI is a big old happening and how it's affecting telcos. And we've got some really brilliant strategies from the main episode. So if you haven't listened to that, listeners, I urge you to go back. But what I thought would be really helpful, Olly, is just to think about the changes that you've seen in the telco industry. You were just talking like in between the episodes about sometimes automotive gets a bad rap. Telcos have had a bad rap as well. So what are you doing differently? Because I think you're trying to approach it in a bit more of a fresher approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we like to feel like we approach things in a very different way. So every vendor, customer, partner that we speak to, we are, for someone, I'm a big Simon Sinek disciple. So I
love him.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah. It's really around how do we make that difference to that customer, and whether that be a small change, it could be like, turning analytics on like we spoke about, or going for a full re-overhaul in terms of how do we tune up AI, get everything working like that. So it really is sort of how we approach things is quite different. What we also do, and like you mentioned, automotive can sometimes get a bad rap. We see that in telcos with people sign up for 7-year contracts, and that really isn't supportive of business, and that's not. It's not agile. No, it's not. It's not agile. It's not agile.
Yeah.
There's no flexibility in it at all, and that's something that we see, and we try and support our customers. So what we do is we don't do 7-year contracts. We do 1-year rolling terms.
So you can then I suppose you can flex up or flex down depending on what you need. We frequently have to change the amount of rooftops or within a group, and I suppose it's no different in your world. If somebody's buying a group, we see a logo change. Yeah. You need to be adaptable with the resources that you provide through your business. So actually, agility is really critical.
Super critical. And like I said, that's why we go down that model. And if you acquire a new business and dealership, that's fantastic. Great. You're not going to then sign up for another contract. That we bring that in. The same if you have to make a really difficult decision of maybe, okay, this dealership's not performing, let's close it. We're not going to penalise you for that either. So that's really key. And also some of the things that we see, and OEMs, for example, will say to one of our customers will say, we need you to take over this site because it's underperforming. So they take over that site. Again, there's no users for them to provision. And again, we're not going to then penalise you because you're growing your business. We want to grow with you and give you the flexibility, the room to grow. If you wanted to turn on, call analytics for a busy period and turn it off, we allow you to do that. That's absolutely fine. So you've got the full of flexibility, how you want to run your business. So that's how we do it. And quite an interesting story on that area, in terms of we need you to take over this car dealership. They have a third of the car dealership groups in the UK for this OEM, but they sell 2/3 of the cars for the OEM. And it's quite interesting. And I sat down and spoke to one of the team there and said, so technology-wise, obviously we understand how you're doing it because you're one of our customers and we work really closely with you on that. But sort of on a human level, how you're overperforming. How are you doing that? And he said, it's pretty simple, really. We don't treat our customers like shit. And it was
great.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was such a simple explanation, but again, working with them so closely, they take on new dealerships. They say, okay, we've turned that around. Do we want to pass that back now, for example? So we give them the flexibility to flex up and down, and that works both ways. And that's something that we really try and support from that aspect. And being Green IP, we also have a sort of a green tinted lenses to everything that we do. For example, so far as a company, we've offset over 12,000 kilograms of carbon, and next year, something that I'm heading up, and I'm so excited to launch it. We're doing our Project Earth program. So for new business, basically, what we're going to be doing in existing business as well, we'll talk to them and say, by the way, you've got 100 users, that is going to equate to, for argument's sake, say 10 tons of carbon. Here's 3 climate projects, and we'll offer to offset that carbon for you. So they can then choose how they want to offset their telephony system. So they actually have a carbon neutral telephony system. So that's really important for us as a business to support and do the legwork for our customers to enable them to do that. So we do things slightly differently, which is pretty cool. And integrations and all of that sustainability is really at the forefront of everything we do.
The carbon thing, the renewable energy, or just being just carbon neutral and taking the stress, because businesses are legislated. There's kind of there's taxable benefits to carbon neutrality. So if you're taking some of that pressure off them, that's even better.
Yeah.
But also, you heard it here. Don't treat customers like shit. I love that. Put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's just, but if that's the reason that you're selling more cars, we should really adopt that the world over. And I was like, it shouldn't even have to be a thing.
Well,
but
exactly. And that comes back to sort of what we spoke about in the main episode around the key rules.
Don't miss my phone call.
Don't miss the phone call. But they, working with them really closely, they've got the integrated technology stack, they've got the analytics, they've got AI, so they know their customers better than anyone, and that gives them the ability not to treat them like shit.
So nobody anyway should be saying, why are we not selling more cars? It should just be, here's some analytics that shows you when people are calling you, and then which calls you're missing, and then how do you maybe switch your telephone systems on 24/7, so you're capturing customers when they're calling you,
exactly,
rather than you've switched off your phone systems and gone home for the evening. You just don't need to do that. You can capture it all the time. Okay.
Exactly.
So just thinking about myth busting, because we're a tech podcast, and you wouldn't necessarily think of telco as tech, but clearly it is massive tech. And it was like the first, all the wires went in. It's how we connect up everything and everybody. And that's now changing from physical wires to, beamed in, through the cloud. So what are the biggest myths around telcos or the work that you do that we can start to bust in this podcast?
Complexity is probably one that I think people are a bit afraid of what they don't know, and all the cloud and all this sort of thing. It couldn't be easier. It couldn't be simpler. And part of that comes from, for example, you may have someone that's had the big box of tin on site for 15 years, for example. They know it inside out. Actually, moving to a cloud model is really nice and simple, because if you've got multiple rooftops and multiple businesses that, sometimes you've got multi-brands on one site, sometimes you've got multi-brands split out across the board, you can manage that all through one portal. You don't have to then go, the phone isn't working, I've got to get in my car and drive 45 miles. You don't have to do any of that. So I think complexity may be one, and I think AI probably helps and doesn't help that at the same time. People can be a bit scared of what they're not educated on, and that's where our responsibility is, right, in terms of making sure that we make sure the customers and the industry as a whole is educated enough to make sure they're making informed decisions on what they want to do. So I'd probably say complexity maybe is one of the key ones.
It's much easier than you think. So I like that you mentioned in the main episode about switching on a multi-user site, 800 users. You can switch things on in a matter of hours, because the tech is connected up in the back end. So we talk about back end as in the back end of the system that connects it all up, all of those pretend wires, it's not wires. But then the front end, as consumers and experience you, data is flowing into that front end, because everything else in the back end has been enabled. And you also mentioned, I think there was some terminology that you talked about, like the soft phone, which is how you then just talk to people through a laptop rather than a physical phone. So myth busting, it's much quicker than you think. It's not as complex, but obviously it's not complex for you because that's what you do. It's complex for a dealership because they maybe don't know how to then go about upgrading the way that they speak to customers in the way that they do through the phone.
Yeah, so, it can be an absolute minefield, if you're not aware and you don't have the right partner in place to talk to you about it. So I'd say that's the key one. Probably a second one is a telephony system is just a telephony system. It's much more than that.
Yeah.
It's a massive opportunity for data collection. It's a massive opportunity for revenue for the business. It's also a huge opportunity to integrate that. Like we mentioned, integration is a really key part of what we do, whether that's in automotive or in hospitality, and the lessons that we can learn from both of those. It's really around how it's not just picking up a phone and speaking to someone. It's so much more than that.
Yeah.
And just to take another example of hospitality that we didn't quite get to earlier, not every hotel brand is going to want, we're staying at the hotel to celebrate an anniversary and someone's gluten-free. Make sure we send a gluten-free cake rather than a normal cake, for example. We're also working with the facilities management. So when that room is not checked in and not in use, the power's shut off, the AC shut off, the plumbing shut off. So you're not taking, energy bills are, soaring through the roof, so it's a really key part that we can bring that into the whole place in terms of just from that telephone in that room. And not every single hotel brand is going to want that. Like I said, I'll phone down to the restaurant and I've got a vegetarian menu there, or go to the spa. But low budget brands definitely want to save money on energy costs, right? So there's so many things that we can do in terms of bringing that in. So I suppose, yeah, the second myth, and probably quite a key one, is people just see a phone. Oh, that's just how I'm going to speak to someone on the phone. It's so much more than that. And it really is about how much you want to get out of that. And that's where we come in terms of making sure that you're getting the absolute most out of your telephony system.
You're mining your data, however you get it, to be able to find those magic touch points.
Yeah.
So just, Olly, thinking about you, what's one tech tool you can't live without? What's kind of critical for you?
AI in its purest and simplest form, in terms of summarization. We spoke about it a little bit on the main podcast. It's taken a long time, and it's been a real learning journey for me to understand how AI can help me in terms of, not have an over-reliance on it, but in a meeting, for example, turn AI assistant on so I'm getting the full transcription, summary, action items, so I'm being present in my meetings. And then also as a chief operating officer in terms of our business and how we can apply the AI into the business to drive efficiencies, employee experience, which then ultimately, in my opinion, leads to great customer experience. So it's probably definitely AI's changed telecoms. I think it's changed the world, to be completely honest. It's such a massive revolution, probably rather than an evolution. And it's around how you learn as an individual to work with AI, and then also how we can apply that to our business and make sure that we're efficient. And we've learned a lot of lessons in terms of how we do things with AI, and we're sharing those lessons, which is, I think, is really important to have that open ecosystem and discussion.
Just even from the beginning of the podcast, we launched this 6 months ago, and the very first episode we talked to Tom and Harvey about what do we think about AI, and now the knowledge. We've had a whole series of AI episodes with different people. We have a really big sort of an expanding partner ecosystem where we work with partners that do the things that we don't do. So it means that we can accelerate faster in all those areas. Just from your point of view, is there any innovation that you can see coming in the telco space that really excites you in the next 5 years that you think, watch out for this?
I think agentic agents, we're there right now, but in terms of how they're going to develop and how they're going to get better is pretty cool. And that's something that we're seeing quite a lot of our early adopters in our existing customer base, in terms of they want to understand how they can drive more efficiencies, how they can help, in terms of if we've got staffing churn, for example, making sure that, we skill this agent up once and it's always learning. So for me, that's probably the real key part that we're going to see in automotive, is you can phone up at any time to your dealership group and book in a service, understand where your car's at. All of that really cool stuff is going to be really, really key. That's what I think is going to be absolutely massive. But in terms of getting the, should we say, non-early adopters, we need to make sure that we tidy up your integration, make sure you've got integrated DMS, you've got integrated products, you're not siloed. Because if you want to go from here to agentic agents, you're going to struggle. We need to make sure we can help you on that journey, because we're doing some really cool projects right now. I love getting involved in that, but we've also got some customers that are a bit more resistant to that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's my role, and as a company's role, to make sure we guide them on that path, because otherwise you can quite easily get lost.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think the thing to remember about AI is that you're training it. So when one I was talking about, she came on and she's been working with OpenAI since ChatGPT version 2. I didn't know until that episode that when you put a thumb up, that's training the AI. Yeah. If you have a thumb down, it says you don't like the answer, you need to go back. And then in the thoughts, what episode, it was like understanding. You mentioned about having integrations into your DMS, or having integrations into your wider ecosystem, that by having the correct data sources plumbed in, you reduce hallucinations, which is the AI has made it up.
Yeah.
I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It means it's made it up. So have accurate and relevant sources of integrations into your AI assistant as you're building it out, and you're training it. So it's good to get involved early. Brilliant. Well, listen, as we wrap up, we've got a couple of fun questions we ask every guest. And one of them is your dream road trip destination, either that you've been on or it's on your bucket list that you want to go on. And then the final one is about what you're going to listen to on that road trip, because we're building a little Drivetime podcast playlist.
Okay. Dream road trip would be probably the North Coast 500 in Scotland.
Excellent.
I've got a classic Land Rover Defender.
Have you? Oh my goodness!
Yeah. So it'd be in that, and probably be listening to quite a lot of Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, nice! I love Fleetwood Mac. Rumours album, brilliant album.
That'd be the one. Yeah.
So that's any particular track on the Rumours album that you'd put on there?
Landslide. I think that's on Rumours. Is Landslide on Rumours?
I'll have a look. I can't remember.
Either that or Dreams. But yeah, be my wife and my 1-year-old golden retriever in the back. Yeah.
Nice. With your Defender, do you drive like this?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I put the window out and stick my arm out. So yeah.
We had this conversation, my partner and I. He said, I hated that car. I had to drive one for work, and I always had my arm out the window because he said he's quite a big guy, and he had to drive like this. And I was like, I need to.
The steering wheel's bloody massive. So you just got nowhere to go.
Huge steering wheel, no side space. So you have to just. Yeah. Anyway, that is fun. So right, Northwest 500 around Scotland with some Fleetwood Mac. Brilliant. Olly Harrison from Green IP. Thanks again so much for staying with us for this gear change episode. And it's been really brilliant. Thank you. I really appreciated that conversation.
Yeah, loved it. Cheers for having us. Thank you.
Thanks again, Olly Harrison from Green IP, for that gear change episode. That was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to try and plan a trip around the Northwest 500. So if you are watching us on YouTube, don't forget to give us a like, follow and subscribe. You'll never miss an episode of the Drivetime podcast. You can also get us on Spotify and Apple or wherever you get your podcasts.